Come on. Come on, Facebook. Redirecting to Facebook Live. Good stuff. Good morning, everyone. I am Sarah Tugender, your Director of Sales, and I really love Gene SNP. I've loved Gene SNP in every iteration of Gene SNP that has come out. I've had a business now for 14 years, and how many other veterans are on here with me? Have you guys seen a lot of different forms when it comes to Gene SNP, genetic testing? Sometimes all distributors had access to it. And, now we're at a point for protection and where we think that the industry is going, where it is a health professional only product. You can just get Gene SNP DNA analysis, order it as a nutraMetrix health professional, and it's for them to just use with their patients. And this is something, so I would like to please ask you as nutraMetrix consultants, don't try to just go to a nutraMetrix health provider and say, hey, can you do my Gene SNP for me? I'm going to show you how it really doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that unless you are a patient of that practitioner. Now, otherwise, the data is not going to be as useful, and you really do want to use it to its full potential. So I'm going to run through all of the tools. I'm going to tell you a little bit about nutrigenomics from a high level. Corinne's saying she's nervous about the reports and how to guide the HP, and that you have a health professional focusing on mental health. We have a lot of mental health providers who use Gene SNP. And the other thing I have to say is don't be nervous about it, because you have us as the nutraMetrix team to be able to help you. It's one of my favorite conference calls is to run a Gene SNP conference call. Usually we get everything answered in the first call, and then that health professional can just run with it. So don't even worry about it, but asking us to reach out to do that. But when I tell you, buckle up, guys, because I have a lot of content to cover. I am really excited about the way that we put together this presentation today. I'm just excited because I think it's going to make a lot of sense. And for the first time in a while, I kind of gathered all of the data into just one place, which I also think is really nice. So this is the most up-to-date information that's right here for all of you. Can someone just let me know in the chat if you can see my PowerPoint presentation? Because I don't know what I'm seeing right now. Hey, Harvey, how are you? Oh, awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay. All right. I'm going to try to keep the chat open too at the same time, so we can see if we can do that. So Gene SNP DNA analysis. What I'm going to first talk about is just genetics, nutrigenomics as a body of work in general. And then we're going to get into a little bit about the kit, how to sell the kit, how to train your health professionals. We'll get into some implementation, all the tools that you have. But this is the first thing. This is a flyer that we have that I chopped up into slides. And so hopefully we'll get this slide deck approved to you and approved through legal and over to you so you can have this. But this is an approved download. So what we're really talking about is that we want to make choices that have an impact on our health. And one of the things about selling nutraceuticals, supplements, lifestyle, how many of you guys have ever been told by a doctor, like, oh, well, you'll just have expensive urine at the end of the day? Has anyone been told that before? Or has it just been me? Or like, vitamins don't work. Don't even worry about that. And you know what? I agree with them. I say you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. The vitamins don't work if you're taking vitamins that you don't need. You are absolutely right if you don't take high quality nutraceuticals that actually have a delivery system that works. You are totally right if you're missing the mark and taking things just because you think you should take them, not because you know that your body needs them. But you can't tell me that you're going to say to someone who's pregnant that they shouldn't take a prenatal vitamin. You're not going to tell me that someone who is deficient in iron shouldn't take an iron supplement. You're not going to tell me that vitamin C hasn't been proven against scurvy. And that's a really simple one. And, but we want to it's 2020, guys. We're in a place where technology has come so far that we should be able to, and we can look at our genetics, pair this with our family history and health history to be able to say what is actually going to have a predisposition for you and a less than ideal response to the environment and risk factors for disease. So when we look at our product, when we look at nutraMetrix and we look at our Gene SNP DNA analysis, this is an understanding of your genetic risk, understanding how your choices are going to interact with your code, understanding which supplements are going to work for you, and working with your healthcare team. You're going to get some really great reports. So what's the difference between our test and other tests out there? Because you see things that are advertised, whether it's a commercial, Groupon, someone said that they connected with a long lost cousin because of nutrigenomic testing or genetic testing. What is different? So this is a cheek swab, not a blood test, administered by a practitioner, 48 genes. So sometimes other companies, they'll do not a cheek swab, they'll do a saliva test, and that's not quite as accurate. So the buccal swab or the cheek swab, it's like a longer Q-tip and you just swab it in your cheeks. Other tests will sometimes just do fewer SNPs, so anywhere from 12 to 20, or you have to buy different panels. It is really hard for practitioners to come up with a health action plan to then dialogue with their patients. I've had a lot of practitioners lately say how great our results are. My kids did not sleep well last night with a big rainstorm, so I'm going to sip some coffee during this. And we also have supplements with it. So not a lot of other companies do have supplements to take it that next step. So this is the last 3 slides I just showed you are a one sheet, which is a really beautiful handoff, something you could email to a provider, something you can leave with them, give to them, take a picture of it on your phone, text it to them. I think it's really helpful. But you have to understand that personalized dietary advice based on someone's genetic makeup improves eating habits compared to the one-size-fits-all recommendation. And so this is from a University of Toronto study from 2014. If you want patients to adhere to the program you're putting them on, Gene SNP is a great way to do that. I'm going to get real basic for you guys. This is like 4th grade basic, and I've been doing remote learning with my kids, so I feel as if I'm qualified to act as a 4th grade teacher for you to tell you a little bit about the basics of Gene SNPs. But don't worry if you forgot how genetics work. I know there's a lot of things that you might remember. You might remember that there's segments of DNA, and this is just a big code for proteins or enzymes that give instructions to our cells. This is the blueprint that tells everything what to do and where to go. And the nucleotides is what link the 2 strands of our DNA. So you guys remember that double helix, right? And so we have the nucleotides that are linking them. And the bases are the alphabet of our genetic code. And it's the combination that instructs the body how to do what it does. So some of them are not health related. So, we talk about like blue eyes, right? And how many people are like, oh, well, I mean, I know I just had a baby 4 months ago. So it's like, well, daddy has brown eyes and mom has, some lighter eyes. My eyes are like a grayish, greenish. And, so what color are the kids going to have? And it's so funny that the way it all meshes together. I have Ella who has brown eyes. I have Brody who has these bright, bright blue eyes. And it's looking like Duke's also going to have some blue eyes, right? And it doesn't matter how many blueberries I ate in pregnancy. It doesn't matter what I feed my kids. Their eye color is not going to change. It has nothing to do with their health, right? But other things, some will code for, some combinations will code for suboptimal metabolic activity. And so this is where we're going to increase the chronic health complaints. Oh, it runs in my family, right? You hear people say that. And changing just one base can change the gene's instructions for the cell. And this is called a variation. So if you have what's optimal and then the base changes, now we talk about a single nucleotide polymorphism. So SNP is just an acronym for that single single nucleotide polymorphism. And it's totally natural that we have variations in our genes. And it plays one role in the risk of getting or not getting certain diseases. It's a combination that of the variations. So sometimes you need to have many different genes working in combination to have even a greater risk. But this is also too like why some drugs or nutrients work well in one person and not another. You know, I'm drinking coffee right now. How many people say that coffee does not work as a stimulant for them? You know, let me know. Or how many people are like, I have one glass of alcohol and I just am on the floor. I am such a lightweight. You know, why is it? It has to do with our genes. It has to do with how we metabolize. You know, it's going to have to do a little bit with, you know, the environment and our predisposition of what we've done. You know, I know that if you are totally dehydrated and then you go ahead and have alcohol, that's going to have another effect on you. If you've had a lot to eat or not a lot to eat, or even what you've eaten, that's going to have an effect on you. You know, and this isn't about alcohol, but that is one, you know, example of what we already know and we talk about. Like, we talk about nutrigenomics in that way. You know, you guys just aren't around, you know, hanging out in a social setting saying, hey, how well do you think you metabolize your vitamin D? You know, when's the last time? Oh, geez, I am such a lightweight with my vitamin D. Like, no, that's not how we talk about nutrients that way. What is nutrigenomics not? This is not a diagnostic test. So for everyone that thinks it is, and another example of the way that, you know, genetics works, and this isn't nutrigenomics necessarily, but it's very common, especially in women's health, for your provider to ask you if you want to get the BRCA gene, which is, you know, those women's cancer related, whether I think that it's both breast cancer and I think it's also ovarian cancer as the risk. And you can see, okay, well, if you had a family history, they'll see if you have the genes. That doesn't mean you're going to get cancer either. I mean, this is the same way when it comes to nutrigenomics. And if we're going to talk about, you know, something, again, let's just use vitamin D as the example, and how well you metabolize vitamin D. And how well you convert it into something that's usable. It's not like, oh, look at you, you are vitamin D deficient. It doesn't work like that. It's not diagnostic like that. You know, we could say that you're predisposed to being deficient, or you're predisposed to being a bit more efficient with your vitamin D, but we still are going to have to do a blood serum test to see where your vitamin D is at. It is not a prescription. At the end of this, it's not going to say, you know, this is the way it's definitely going to work. It's not all you need. And this is why, this is the key, this slide right here, as to why you cannot just have a health professional order you a Gene SNP report and they hand it to you. You have to be a patient. You have to have so many other data points to have it so it's meaningful for you. And I really want to stress that. So please don't try to go around the system. Our health professional signed consents with using Gene SNP DNA analysis. We don't want, you know, to jeopardize anything for the program or for our providers. And we really want it to be, you know, we want providers to see the full potential of it. And so this really is a tool for you to increase your retail within your nutraMetrix organization. And that's what I'm going to end the presentation with. So just keep that in the back of your mind. This is just going to add new data. You do need to know, are there certain symptoms? You know, what are the previous circumstances and triggers? What keeps it going? You know, what are the mediators of the issues? What can be done to change the frequency, intensity, duration, you know, or not have the disease at all? You know, where is intervention to be most effective? There's 5 principles for a healthy gene environment. Number 1, you need to know that there's not one superstar gene. There's not this one gene that rules them all. A lot of people think like MTHFR. If I have MTHFR, I got tested for that, I would just know, you know, that I'm going to go to the Olympics or not. Sorry, guys, it just doesn't work like that. There's actually a few MTHFR genes. That's not even just the one superstar gene. So we really need to know the combination of genes. We need to know the person. You need to know, are they male, female, their age, what their lifestyle is like. Number two, there's 3 different gene pathways. So you can either have optimal pathways where this is working great. Alternative pathways, it works, but maybe not at full capacity. Or arrested, where it's low or non-functioning. So it's not always so much as this gene turned on or turned off. It might be that it's turned down or turned up, or it's functioning a little funny, right? And we've seen this. We've seen this in nature, right? Have you ever seen an animal, and maybe out of its 4 legs, one of them, is maybe not quite the same size? Are we saying that that animal can't walk? No, it's going to just walk a little funny. It might just be a little bit slower. Still going to be fine. Still going to absolutely be fine. And, so we're really resilient. Our bodies are really resilient. That's another thing about Homo sapiens that I just like to remind everyone for, is we figure it out. We overcome a lot, even based on our nutrigenomics. 3, gene environment is more than just what goes into your face, guys. It's more than just the nutrients. I'm sorry to tell you, but nutraMetrix doesn't have all the solutions. That's why we are always preaching lifestyle medicine, physical fitness. We're prioritizing our sleep, stress, balance, and then also nutrition. And it's what you eat combined with what you supplement. And number 4, one size doesn't always fit all. And so an analysis is going to show different gene variations and what lifestyle components should be targeted. I mean, I could tell you for my own, it came up a lot that I have a lot of SNPs when it comes to weight resistance. And for anyone that knows me, I mean, I'm probably, you would call me petite, right? I'm not that tall. I'm 5'1.5". I think I put 5'2" on my driver's license. And, I look, pretty good in a pair of skinny jeans, so that's fine. But if you talk about, my family history, sure, yeah, there's obesity on both sides of my family. My grandfather, he died pretty much of just a poor lifestyle. And, so that is there, and I overcome it. If anyone's hung out with me for more than a day, you see, I adhere to a very strict nutritional plan. I'm very committed to my supplements. But do you think I'm focusing on the fact that I have a lot of these, obesity genes in pregnancy? No, that's not something I'm focusing on. So a different time in your life, again, this is why you have to know the patient. You have to know their goals. You have to know where they are. Even, postpartum, I'm not following, what necessarily the Gene SNP DNA analysis spit out for me. It wouldn't be appropriate as a nursing mom. And so I'm focusing on other things that I have a higher risk factor for. And number 5, combination is key. There's not one trigger for common disease. So your approach to your health has got to be very diverse. And so what is this? This is going to be an analysis that gives insight into how patients' genes are going to function. It's going to give you the information you need and identify how gene variations are going to link to sleep, fitness, mental energy, and stamina. It's going to help know, why doesn't this patient lose weight on the same diet as others? How can you help create a customized plan for main health concerns? And what dietary composition and supplements should you recommend? And I actually think it ends up being a more efficient plan when you know exactly what's going to work for you. And if you guys, any questions come up, let me know. I will try to answer as I go, but we're just letting me know that everyone's still here. So it can reveal insight into, how to eat, how to exercise, what supplements. Think about this. What if you're doing this? Because there's no age limit for our Gene SNP. I mean, this is, you can do that from babies all the way to, patients in a nursing home. Like it does not matter the age, but obviously we are going to, have a different recommendation depending on the age of the patient, depending on, we're not going to, have a child have the same supplements that we're going to have an adult have as well. So how do we engage? How do we ask the practitioner to engage with their patients and start a dialogue? And how do we engage with our providers? The first thing that I like to tell providers is this isn't something when I ask them to evaluate Gene SNP for their practice, we find a very specific candidate. This is not as simple as like a calcium, that we're purchasing. This is an investment into someone's health. So who is someone who's doing that? And how are you going to identify them when they come into your practice? How are you going to offer this as a test? And what is it that you offer that reveals like, this is where I need to go? How much are you going to charge? Are you going to bundle it with someone else? How are you going to interpret it? Who's going to help you? What is your wellness program going to look like? We talk about this as a whole wellness program. Let's think about dermatologists. If you were going to approach a dermatologist, there's a lot of dermatologists who offer a lot of cosmetic, like now they're doing injectables like Botox. They're doing, maybe some higher end medical grade aesthetic services. Do you think that everyone that comes in for dermatology services is going to be a fit for medical aesthetics? No, not everyone's going to care about that. Not everyone's going to want to do that. Not everyone's going to be motivated. Not everyone's going to have it within their budget or priority to do that. So in a way, this is like an add-on, cash-based. It's very concierge. It's high-end. It's not going to be for everyone. The other thing we need to know too is the goal is not to fix anything or not fixing. No one's wrong, and you can't change a SNP. The SNP is the SNP. It's not going to change. You can just help support these SNPs. You can support the environment. There's no super villain. There's no superhero. Like you cannot say, that's COMT. That's why my first marriage failed. It was the COMT gene. Like it doesn't work like that, guys. And we're not treating a SNP either. And so in gene environment is going to impact us really stronger than any one SNP. You have to remember that it's all about the environment that we're creating. And so genetic results is a way to modify treatment. It's a way to be really proactive in recommendations. Kathy, I'm glad you're laughing at me. It's a way to identify at-risk populations and understand if you're susceptible. I'll just give you from my own personal Gene SNP story. I have a family history of a few different autoimmune diseases. And it's mostly on one side. And so I don't really know, I have some personal history risk factors, but I've never been diagnosed with any autoimmune disease. I don't have any reason to think that I've even manifested any autoimmune disease where, it's gone ahead and triggered that as like a diagnosis. I don't have any symptoms of anything. But like I said, I do have these risk factors. And so in doing my Gene SNP DNA analysis, I did discover I do have the genes. I am susceptible. And being the age that I am and stressors like having babies, stressors like working at the level I do, just our own mind and stressors can definitely trigger something like that, can trigger that autoimmune response from the genes that you already have. And so I prioritize certain lifestyle habits and certain supplements to combat that. It's a proactive approach that I have to the lifestyle, to the genetic predisposition that I have. It's very proactive. I love what Harvey's saying is that your genes are the ultimate game of 5-card stud. You don't get any new cards, but how well you play the game will determine how long you stay in the game. Yeah, Harvey, I'm giving you full credit. I think that's awesome. And you're so right. Like I do think it is like counting cards. It is like you have the upper hand on the house. You know what is in front of you. And so why not go into situations eyes wide open? And I think that is, what I've really appreciated about it. That's what I've really appreciated and why I've invested in Gene SNP DNA technology through my providers for my family. And it is an investment, but I think it's an important one. When we talk about panels, this is what I want you to know, that it's these areas of impact that we have. And so a lot of practitioners will ask, what are your panels? Because that's just what they're used to from other tests. We call them areas of impact. And don't forget, it's not like you just buy a certain panel. We have all 48 genes: nutrient metabolism, cardiovascular health, obesity, fitness, inflammation, hormonal health, mental, emotional health, and children's health. I want you to remember too that we have little icons that go with each of these, and I'll talk to you in a couple minutes about why those icons are important. What are the genes that are tested? Well, these are all of them. If you need them written out, if a provider asks, they're all on our website, genesnp.com, and there also is a download, GeneSNP FAQs, and you'll be able to see this. We also have a sample report available to you on downloads. So these are all the areas where you can find what genes are tested. You might have providers that ask for a certain gene. Oh, do you have the ApoA gene? Do you have the COMT gene? Do you have the DRD2 gene? Like there's a couple that, you know, kind of stand out. GeneSNP.com is going to be a great resource for you. It talks about the different panels or the areas of impact where you'll be able to learn about facts, news, and research. Just a really great place to be able to learn about this. More frequently asked questions are there, which I think is great, that I'll tell you. So please read through this as part of your homework. The other thing, just to let you know, is that we do collect leads through genesnp.com. And if anyone does discover it just from, you know, blogs and SEO and just being on the internet, when patients do type in, because we do link from their website to genesnp.com. So if patients do type in, we do connect them back with their providers. We have a download all about instructions. It's like the getting started guide for GeneSNP, but just to go over this with you, what are the instructions? I recommend that you tell patients that it is a fasting test. It actually is more just that there can't be any proteins in your mouth that might interfere with the buccal swab. But what people don't understand is they're like, oh, well, I'm going to have my cup of coffee this morning and I'm not eating a protein. But then they put milk in their coffee and they're not making the connection that there's protein in their milk that they're drinking. So I just find, for compliance and to make sure that you're not interfering with the test, you just say it's a fasting test. If you have providers, book the collection first thing in the morning, have them come in. That's going to be fine too. So, and have the patient rinse their mouth a few times with water. You're going to uncap both caps of the swab holder. You're going to collect the tissue, swabbing and rolling on the inside of both cheeks. So each swab, there's 2 swabs, 30 seconds per cheek. Insert the swab into the holder, repeat with the second swab, and allow them to dry before you put the caps on. Really important to make sure that the patient ID stickers, you're going to get some patient IDs. You're going to get one for each of the sides of the, what did we just call those things? The swab holder, one for each side of the swab holder, and another one for the office file. That's the only identifying information, is a number that attaches to the buccal sample. So the provider really has to remember or keep track of which patients and which buccal samples match up, especially if you're going to mail in a bunch of them all at once. There's a foam piece. It goes into the swab holder. Make sure you insert the signed consent form, the second foam piece, cap it, and ship it. You can ship it right in the tube that it comes in. It just has to get to the lab within 7 days. I usually suggest that people will bring them to the post office. That tends to be the less expensive, but do 2-day ship, overnight ship. You can use just that plastic, that paper tube that comes in the collection kit. If you're mailing multiple of them, they can all be mailed at once in one envelope. Our lab is currently running a special which is, I think it's through July, which is if you send 3 of them at once, you're only paying the lab fee for 2. So you're getting a nice savings. That lab fee is $265. So that's a nice savings. You can either pass it on to the patient, use it for a family member or yourself. You could, or just increase your retail profit with that. So you can do that. I mean, you can ship it whatever, FedEx, UPS, whatever you want. We don't have the shipping's not included in this. So it's really up to you to where you want to ship it from or the provider. And then what's going to come back to you in about 6 to 8 weeks as turnaround is going to be the report and the results. It's going to have Genetics 101, a clear and concise how to read the report with the findings, a general obesity index, exercise and activity, your health, your behavior, vitamins in you. The provider will receive 2 copies of this report. Carrie, are you telling me that I've been saying buccal wrong this whole time, that it's more like buccal swab? Thank you, Carrie. I've heard it both ways. I will research this. Thank you so much. And you could be right. I have heard it both ways. So thank you, Carrie. And all right, so there is a general obesity index. Just to let you guys know, I'm a 7.9 out of 10. This one right here is a 5.4. Is it a surprise that there were a lot of genes that came through that were related to obesity, but I have a family history of this? What I really like to use this for to tell providers is kind of like, what are you in for here? Is it going to be a really interesting report with a lot of red SNPs? Is it going to be a lot of neutral SNPs or gain genes? A 5.4 is going to be, not quite as interesting as a 9.0. But it is good to know what you're working with. And don't forget too, there's a difference between genotype and phenotype. So just because you have the genes, just because I'm a 7.9 doesn't mean that I'm obese. So, what is the patient presenting as? And that's what phenotype is. So you can summarize it with the report that the lab sends you. You'll have nice summaries for food choices, exercise habits, health, behavior, and vitamins. I do want to mention that we do have on downloads remote collection and processing procedure. So this is a way if a health provider does want to order either an individual gene SNP, which the code's right here, or a pack of 5, which you'll get a savings for a pack of 5. I have this typed out, but I'll say this here. So one kit that you order from nutraMetrix is $39.95. The packs of 5 are $150. So you basically are getting one free, or they end up being about $30 each instead of $39.95. Always the kits are mailed to the providers, but we do have instructions if we have patients that now are involved in telemedicine, practitioners who are involved in telemedicine as that is growing, or we have providers who want to take patients in other states or for whatever reason. So please read the instructions. It's a 2-page document. This is what we use if we're working remotely with providers. There also on downloads is a patient guide for gene SNP DNA analysis. This is all the information, like letting them know they have to sign a consent, don't eat or drink anything for at least 4 hours before the appointment. You'll have to rinse your mouth. We collect the DNA from swabbing both cheeks. We say here 8 to 12 weeks for results. We're finding they're coming back somewhere around 6 to 10, but it's been fluctuating. It just depends on how busy the lab is. And your personal data is destroyed. It's never shared. It's never sold. That's really important. People want to know that. So if you swab the patient, sent it in, what do you do during those 6 to 10 weeks? How do you keep a patient engaged? We're working on a series of emails to be able to give you guys. There's overviews you can do, newsletters, maybe start them just on a TLS program, get them a TLS guide and journal, have them start, writing down their lifestyle. How do you talk to your patients about this? Well, genes are going to play a very important role in your health. So understanding how the genes interact with each other and with other nutrients can help you reach optimal health. So what if you could have your own unique program to guide your optimal health just for you? It's like a blueprint that tells your personal gene story. So again, it's $39.95 for each kit. You buy a pack of 5 for $150. When you call in to go ahead with the lab as a provider, the provider is going to call into the lab with their credit card, not the patient's. It all happens from the provider and goes ahead and this is why you want to collect money for the Gene SNP DNA analysis before you send it to the lab, because you'll be billed from the lab $265 at the time of processing. Like we said, like right now they're running a special. If you do 3 of them at once, you'll only pay for 2 lab fees. So they might continue to do specials like that. Our suggested retail is anywhere from $4.95 to $12.95 plus. And it's really going to depend on what you combine it with. I'm going to show you, we have some Gene SNP combined with TLS examples, and this might really generate some engagement. I think that at least in the first 90 days, make it a goal for your providers to do at least 10 of them. And that's really going to help establish a routine. They'll start to see patterns. They'll get engaged with a lot of the genes. A lot of providers will start with themselves, their family, their staff, and some patients that they know that they could call up to say, you know, would you be interested in this? Now you'll have some case studies, some stories to tell, really, and establish your implementation. And so sometimes with that trial, that beta, they might run it at, you know, maybe $500, $600 as just a trial, a special, you know, to get them done, to get the first 10 out of the way. And as they go, you might, you know, make them a little bit more robust. Are you going to do limited time offers? When are you going to introduce Gene SNP? Is it going to be with all new patients? Is it going to be just offered a few times a year? What's worked in the past? How do you adapt? And how do you really create some new goals around it? And so when you talk implementation with your providers, you have to talk about, you know, what the promotion is going to be like, what the goals are. Again, I really suggest 10 in a 90-day period. And then you need to do your research, read through the full report, read through genesnp.com, attend our live and online trainings, subscribe to the 12-week Gene SNP strategy. We have an email, yourgenesnp@nutrametrix.com. That's yourgenesnp@nutrametrix.com. And we have a 12-week strategy mastermind for providers. So your providers can enroll by emailing yourgenesnp@nutrametrix.com, and we'll give them the link. And we have more e-learning platforms coming out for both the providers and for you as the NC. So things you really need to determine is, what's your price point going to be? You have to at least cover your bottom line, right? It's $39.95 plus $265 for the lab fee. So we're talking about hard cost is $305. If it takes you about, let's say, an hour to read through a patient's reports and come up with an analysis, that's an hour of your time. If it's another 45 minutes to an hour counseling a patient, that's another hour of your time. So if you're a provider who bills at, let's just make the math easy, $100 an hour, you know, now it's $305 plus 2 hours of your time, which is another $200. You know, you have to add a minimum charge $500. So you can see, you know, where's the wiggle room there? If you're going to make more as a provider, if you're going to put a little bit more into it, if you're going to put a little less into it, if you're going to pay maybe a health coach or someone to help you. How are you dialoguing with features, advantages, and benefits? And who is going over this? Is it a medical assistant? Is it, you know, some sort of dietitian? Is it the front desk? Who's, you know, explaining to patients? What's the testing experience like? Are patients compliant? What are you doing while you're waiting for the results to come back? And so how does all the information influence your treatment goals as well? So we do have here a Gene SNP. There is a Gene SNP profit calculator, but we really then also do like to talk to providers about, like, you know, anti-aging, which is one of our most popular nutrients recommended after a Gene SNP. You know, if we did 25 Gene SNPs and we had 25 people on anti-aging packets, we're talking about an extra $748 coming in retail alone to the practice. You know, if we did 25 Gene SNPs, a quarter, we're going to add on an additional just compounds, you know. So after quarter 2, 6 months from now, we could have $1,500 a month coming into the practice. What if we did anti-aging and an omega? You know, now we're going from $748 to $998. We're going from, you know, in 6 months, if we had 50 patients on that, we're going to $2,000 a month. What if we talked about a bundle? What if we just had 25 patients on a bundle, the Foundation Bundle Pro? We're talking about $1,500 a month right off the bat. Month 2, you could easily ramp this up to $3,000. You know, and then we add in the commissionable points. We're talking about, you can see here, 6 months from now, having a simple implementation with the Foundation Bundle Pro, yielding an extra $45,000 a year into the practice. You know, this is simple implementation. And so how are you going to do this? How are you going to get through your first 10, your first 20, your first 50 gene SNPs? And combining them with TLS is just a home run. So if you're doing 2 gene SNPs a month at $190 profit per kit, that's almost, you know, that's $4,500 a year. If you're selling 2 TLS Select packages a month at $500+ profit per patient, that's another almost $13,000 a year. So we're talking about, with just doing 2 a month, we're talking about at the end of the year, just in retail, an extra $17,000. Then there's the BV, and then there's the commissions, and then even possible insurance payouts if you're running blood work, if you're seeing patients more frequently, if this is a new patient you're bringing to your practice. And it really is going to differentiate your providers as a practice. You know, what are the other services and products that it can add? New office visits, additional labs, additional services. It's going to allow you to talk to other providers in the community to increase the services within the community. I'm telling you, it will keep patients more compliant with their patient sales. We just revamped our TLS Select program examples with our new 30-day Jumpstart kits and our Stay Fit kits. So here's an example of everything that could be combined into a 12-week program, including Gene SNP. Our recommended suggested retail for this 12-week program, you could make it, you could stretch it out to 13 weeks if you wanted to do, you know, a detox week just as a standalone. But we're talking about a $1,700 package, with the profit being at a 44% profit margin, $519 a patient. We've put in here some hours for a wellness coordinator. So we've filled that in with $30 an hour. This might be a nutritionist. This might be a medical assistant, someone who's doing the measurements, taking before and after pictures, sending out support emails, you know, running the weekly visits, where then the health provider is going to do practitioner visits, maybe some blood or hormone testing, intensive behavioral counseling. And for that, they might be able to bill insurance for some of those visits. How are they going to market Gene SNP? Well, we have 2 videos, and these are available on nutraMetrix Custom Health Solutions YouTube channel. So we have one that's a 3-minute and one that's, you know, under a minute, all about Gene SNP. And we also, for implementation and for training on the official NC training channel, we have 19 videos right now in the Gene SNP DNA analysis playlist. More are coming soon on our e-learning platform. We have handouts that look like this. We have infographics that look like this, which are for social media or to put up around the office. We have both a health professional presentation and a patient presentation to be able to introduce this. This can be done in a webinar format. So you can give a presentation to the provider. Providers can give presentations to their colleagues. Providers can give presentations to their patients. What does the report look like? So this is the one thing as NCs you don't have access to. This is the 144-page report. And do you remember those little icons, the areas of impact that we talked about? Well, let's look at this one, the FAME 2. It has all these icons right here. And so when we talk about heart health, when we talk about obesity, nutrient metabolism, mental health, FAME 2 plays a role in all of those areas of impact. And they're ordered in order of importance or an order of impact. So it makes it really simple. There's some notes. It'll tell you about the gene, which variation the patient has, the outcome, lifestyle recommendations, some tips are in there. They're really colorful. They're easy. You know, they have some really great infographics and emojis, and they really have been helpful for providers to be able to dialogue with their patients. Just to let you know, colors from the patient report might not be the same as what comes back from the lab, because the patient report that we have, this patient report, this 144-page patient report, is based on clinical impact above and beyond just obesity. All right, so when we look at here, customizing the report, some providers will do it just by panel. They'll do it just by icon. And someone said in here that there's a mental health provider. They might just look at the mental health SNPs and print those out. You're gonna have to look, you know, maybe you wanna prioritize in your consultation. The provider's gonna wanna prioritize in the consultation with their patient, you know, by complaint and history, if the genes are positive or negative. You know, and genes that are red and homozygous are problematic. So homozygous means that the letters are the same. So it might be AT in red, but that's heterozygous. Homozygous, where it's AA, it has the same letter repeated. If it's that in red, it should be taken seriously. So each of these are going to have a common name. So it's not just going to be the FAME2. We're going to call it the endothelial gene. There's quick reference notes. There's pro tips. There might be a graphic. There's its own overview, and you're going to set up and talk about, you know, the order of importance. And it means a stoplight. Red means it has a negative effect. Yellow means it's neutral. Green means it's a gain gene. You have in downloads a sample report. This is a sample report that comes from the lab. And you'll see if you go through it, we don't know, is it a male, is it a female, what's their age, what's their health history, what's their family history. We don't know, we have no idea, but you can use this so you can see what it does look like. Elaine's asking if you've had a gene SNP test done a few years ago from a provider, they can run that same data through this 144-page report. Or yeah, I mean, Elaine, I don't know. I mean, just because I don't know if you're going to be able to have all the data points. And I can tell you, as someone who I did that, I've run my findings through these tools, and I've called up Dr. Mason and said, Dr. Mason, I think I need to stop drinking coffee because I think it says that I'm going to have a heart attack if I keep drinking coffee. And she's like, it doesn't work like that. So, you know, there's some other things that I do think are better for a provider to be able to read, and it might be worth it for you to go back to your provider, and maybe you could do some of the heavy lifting and kind of create the report. But you know, I personally would pay to have someone analyze my results, maybe look at some updated blood work, because yeah, the science definitely continues to change. And so we have here, and you have this as an NC, the data processing spreadsheet. And so you're going to enter in either the kit number or the name, the code, and then you're going to populate. So you're going to go to the report, and it's going to say here, this gene, it has a little heart over the TT, and this gene has a little heart over the CC, and this gene has a little heart over the AA. So that's the patient's result. And you're going to go in here and mark a 0 for the variant. So FAME2, if there's an AA, you're going to mark 1. This gene, they had a AG, so you mark a 1 in this column. So this is the column you're working on. There's 48 little marks. We like to have races. I think the fastest anyone's done it has been in about like 40, no, I think it's been under 3 minutes. Val Myers did it. So we like to race. If you want to go through and take the sample report and put it through the data processing spreadsheet and let us know how fast it takes you. We're happy to do that. And you're going to make sure you don't skip a variant, because of course there could be user error, but as long as it says 61 and 48 at the bottom, if it doesn't, if it says more or less, you entered something in wrong. So don't skip the genes just because you only want certain genes. It has to be in its entirety. And then what's going to happen is it will automatically calculate. There's another tab for bundles. And so it will automatically go ahead and calculate those bundles. Let me go ahead and I am going to share what this live data processing spreadsheet looks like. And let me just make sure that this is up. Okay, so right here you can see this is a sample report that I've gone through and I've already marked it up. So you can see here that the bundles are already recommended. So what do you do in the event? I mean, you can see clearly that this particular patient, 80% is in the resistance. And then it's like there's 66% in gut guard, 60% in revitalize, 60% in balance. I mean, cardio shield's right there too. This is where you really need to take the patient's history into account, take some other data points into account when it comes to this. There's a summary sheet, so it will say the name, the nickname, it will give you the color, product recommendations, and then some comments there. And it will also pre-populate in this lifestyle report here, where it will check off some genes and variations. So you can see clearly this particular patient should eat low net carb. They're not going to do well on a high-fat keto diet based on their genetics, or low fat. It's going to be mostly low net carbs, no grains. They're going to do great on TLS, this particular patient. They have the lactose, the lactose gene, so that's there. There's a lot of sleep genes. Look at this patient. Yoga, low intensity is definitely where they should be exercising. So it's really simple to go ahead and put that report of findings together. Like I said, in under 3 minutes, you'll have all that data populated. Don't randomly fill in SNPs to show off the tool. It's better for you to use the sample report and use it for the tool. So have one of those data processing spreadsheets filled out from your sample report in your arsenal, in your database. Is it something you're going to give the patient? Providers are going to decide if they are or they aren't, what they're going to do with that. And it's really up to them. It can be a lot of information, so you don't want to overwhelm a patient. There's also cover pages. So there's a 144-page report, and then they also have on downloads these cover pages. And we recommend providers invest in some software on their computer to be able to edit PDFs and add and take out pages, because this way they're going to have a whole customized report. So the report is 144 pages, but each gene is repeated 3 times for each of the variations. So you go in and you take out the 2 that the patient doesn't have, and you're left with 1 page. So 144 pages, gets pared down to 1/3 of that, to just 48 genes. You'll add in these 5 cover pages to the customized report. So that'll get added in there. And if you have a PDF Expert is the one I use for Mac. Does anyone know what the name of the one is that you can buy for a PC? I don't remember. It's about $80. And then from there, you can recommend a bundle. So we have all of our bundles. So you want to make sure that you're talking about Gene SNP and bundles with your providers. We have a new marketing campaign that's coming out soon called our Snippets. And these are flashcards, marketing tools, that you're going to be able to talk about the gene, talk about its nickname that it has here. You'll get a little bit about what it's associated with, what some of the primary concerns are, supplements, exercise habits. So it's really a great campaign that we have coming out. This is going to be a great campaign for you to use with providers, providers to use with their patients, providers to be able to learn the genes. And we have a whole presentation all about bundles, so providers can pull up the bundles and find out why each product is in each bundle. And then even how to take each product. Because like omegas, you can take during a meal, but it's not necessary. That, B vitamins, away from food, but it's not mandatory. So it's all of this. Magnesium, take morning and night, but take that on an empty stomach. So Ginny, New York State still disallows any lab does not have a presence in the state of New York for running lab services in the state of New York. So it's not just with Gene SNP. There's a lot of lab companies that are not allowed to process lab tests in the state of New York. And yet our vendor is not in New York. So that falls under there. So providers in New York are not allowed to access Gene SNP, unfortunately. Kerry, the Excel spreadsheets are called the data processing spreadsheets, and those are in your back office as long as you have active nutraMetrix consultant status. I also then recommend that a provider, when they're making a customized report for a patient, pull in whatever bundles were recommended, maybe even also the foundation bundles, so you can give patients options. We have all different PDFs, so it's if you like the look of this one, or if you like the look of this one, they can customize this for their practice. Totally up to them. I think also to put in the cost of either giving the patients all of this information on a flash drive, and that's what you hand the patient, or getting it all printed and spiral bound really nice. I mean, if they're going to pay $700 plus for a test, it would be really nice, you know, even if it ends up costing you $40 to get it printed and bound, put that into the price of Gene SNP. That's what I tell my providers. We have a couple exercise download PDFs you can throw in there. So if endurance was recommended, if power moves were recommended, you can put that, the providers can put that into their customized report. This is why it's nice to figure out, is the provider going to be creating these customized reports? Are they going to teach a staff member to do so? Are they going to have someone virtually create these and then give them the file so they can create, you know, their report of findings? There's also two versions of this one sheet report of findings. This is easier. This is kind of like the easy button. If they don't want to do the 144-page report and they don't want to do the bundles and they just want one thing that makes it really easy to go ahead and counsel their patient on, or maybe they want to have this where they have it laminated and they go through and they check off the boxes as they're dialoguing with the patient with an expo marker, and it's something that they can wipe off for each patient and show, you know, customized. Or they're filling this out and including it in the whole package for patients. So there's a lot of different ways you can use this. This is also on downloads. Everyone has access to it. So there's only the 144-page report is the only download that providers have that you don't have in your back office as a nutraMetrix consultant. So you can see here it has a general overview, dietary recommendations, non-negotiables with water and sleep. So we're really trying to get lifestyle medicine in there. This is where you'll take that bundle tab of the spreadsheet and you'll prioritize the areas of impact, a TLS select menu plan. If there's anything that comes out like lactose intolerance, stress, fatigue, the nutrients and botanicals that are recommended, and the exercise that's recommended. Now look when I switch, because there's two versions of this. This one, the nutrients and botanicals, will show up as individual nutrients. The other version will show bundles. So that's really the only difference. One's nutrients and botanicals and the other is bundles. And you can see with the meal plan that's recommended, it's really great because they'll give the provider which genes to look at so they know which plan to recommend. This is my last slide. I just want you to know that open for everyone if you want to learn more about Gene SNP. We have a Gene SNP 101 and 201, and these are typically, right, in-person events. Right now, everything is online, and Dr. Mason is doing one. I'm just double checking the date. I know it's in a few weeks, and that is something you do register for. It's part of our GMTSS, and that is going to be Saturday, May 2nd. So that's coming up. Oh, thank you so much, Corinne. Saturday, May 2nd. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., Dr. Mason is going to be doing another Zoom herself about Gene SNP, open for everyone. So that's just another resource, another voice to hear about Gene SNP. I really hope that you talk to your providers about it. I hope you have a bit more of a foundation for, I hope you have a bit more of a foundational knowledge about Gene SNP, enough that you feel comfortable going to your providers, talking to them about it. No, Lynn, it's open. It's open for everyone. So everyone can do the Gene SNP 101, 201. It is best suited for providers, but everyone can be in there. So I'm glad that that is helpful for you. Kamiko says 90 minutes times 5 equals 4.5 here for sleep on that summary sheet. Equals 4.5 hours. I think it's REM cycles. That's a good question. I will get back to you. Let's see, 90, 90, 90. I'm not sure. 90 minutes times 5 is 4.5 hours. No, it's got to be, no, it's more than that. 90 minutes times 5 is more than 4.5 hours. How many hours is that, guys? Someone else help me here with the math. It's more than 4.5 hours. Yeah, 7.5 hours. All right, thank you. That's what I thought. Yeah, no, Donna, it's great to know, even though it's not offered in New York, because you might have a provider in New Jersey. You might have a provider in Connecticut. I know you guys in New York are up against a couple other states as well. So build your business. I mean, all over the country. Find nutraMetrix consultants all over the country. And it really is good to know. So I really, Kumiko, I'm glad we figured that out. It's okay. I haven't finished my cup of coffee either. So, and I really hope that you continue your education on Gene SNP. As I said, it's been really great for my own business. I've found that my providers that do Gene SNP do sell more products, do have patients that are more engaged, really appreciate the retail profit that they make as well. And Kathy, as long as technology is on our side, then tomorrow's Zoom training should also stream to the consultant Facebook group. But what we've been doing is we've been taking these Zooms and putting them on YouTube if they don't stick. So, and Angelica, think about too, I don't know if you're doing anything remote, but we do have that remote guide. So on how to do a remote collection, you might want to start up with Gene SNP now again and offer it to your clients, your patients. And especially where the turnaround time is 6 to 8 weeks, maybe then you consider, then doing the consultation in person, but getting the collection out of the way right now. Our lab is still running and still open and taking samples. Let me know if you end up doing that. Yeah, so get started now. If you need some more help, book a conference call with me. Corinne, yeah, you got to start with gut health. And we talk about that, it all is going to start in the gut. So it's really important to talk to your patients about gut health. And that's a great thing to do, is to work on their gut health in the 6 to 8 weeks while you're waiting for the results to come back. So thank you all so much. I know this was a longer one, but I appreciate you sticking with me, because I do think you have everything all in one presentation. So go out there and please do Gene SNP. It's one of our favorite tools that really sets us apart from a lot of other companies out there.